Hello, folks. Happy New Year from everyone here at A Celtic World, a podcast created by Celtic fans all across the world for Celtic fans all across the world. Whether you're from Newton Mearns or New York, whether you're in Newborough or, I don't know, New South Wales, um, trying to get all the news as much as I can. So, Happy New Year, folks. And who have we got with us today to celebrate the start of what's going to be a tremendous 2026, we hope? So we've got our regular Paul from Western Australia. So Happy New Year, Paul. How are you?
Happy New Year, David. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good outside of all things Celtic. I think it was a pretty terrible end to the last year, and I can't see it getting too much better too quickly. But yeah, echo the greetings and New Year's celebrations to everyone in the comments and that supported us, I guess, over this year and the past couple of years since we've been up and running.
Yeah. So how did you celebrate the new year?
Pretty tamely and quietly. I'm obviously still recuperating from the knee surgery,
From the knee, yeah.
and probably me and particularly my wife, even though she's younger than me, we've probably reached that age where there's no real partying out till all hours on New Year's Eve or Hogmanay these days. So yeah, no, just she was actually working as well, so in the day. So yeah, I cooked a bit of a nice meal for us, and we had a few drinks, and we walked the dogs out to the local pub for a quick pint as part of the dog walk. But that was about it, to be honest. So yeah, very quiet. I'm catching up with some mates tomorrow, so I'll probably have a more serious celebration then. What about yourself?
I'm back at work tomorrow, but yeah, with my wife and daughter, we went to the rooftop of O'Shea's, the world famous Bangkok Celtic Supporters Club. So for the bells, the countdown was quite impressive. They had quite a good drone show. So yeah, it was not as high and fancy. I don't know if you saw the one in China with the prancing horses and stuff. It was amazing. But no, it was great. Met up with one of the guys for the Bangkok Celts supporters club, and yeah, had a few beers. Home fairly decent time. I think in bed by about 3. So not too bad.
Pretty good, mate. Pretty good.
Yep. So yeah. So just some of the comments from some of the regulars who must have been behaving themselves. If you're up at 9:30 on on the first of January in Scotland. So yeah, happy New Year to to everyone. Just going through here. Say get the GDoc and others, McLaughlin P, Pork Chocolate Express. Yeah, they're all. Yeah, looks like a good crowd, to start with already. So, okay, folks, listen. Let's, what we're going to talk about today. So, we have to talk about the Motherwell game. Absolute disaster. Nancy, when I say should he stay or should he go, I'm hoping there's only one answer, and ideally, I think it'd be nice if he's gone already. We have to have our fingers crossed for the Glasgow derby on Saturday, and then talk about the transfer window. I think I don't know if we want to trust this guy with any of our money, or trust the board to actually give him any. But let's see how it is. So I think, folks, if we start from the lineup for the game against Motherwell, when you looked at that, Paul, what were you thinking? Did you think it was going to be? I thought it might have been a 4-4-2 when I saw Trusty and Scales in the lineup. But sadly not.
You're a very naive man, David. Maybe as naive as our manager. No, it's become absolutely abundantly clear he isn't going to change his beliefs for anyone in light of evidence presented. So yeah, we knew it was going to be 3-4-3 or a variation thereof in terms of how you sort of waggle the forward three around. I wasn't completely clear how that was going to look. Watching the first half, I still don't know what it was supposed to be. I've seen a few lineups that got put up with Maeda and Nigrin almost making up a front two with Hatate in the hole behind them. It didn't look like that, but it was a total mess. So who knows? My immediate thoughts, and bear in mind, you looked up early. I got up at 5 to 4 a.m. to watch that absolute debacle. And so I was literally just checking the team as the coverage was starting. So as is customary, you've got to try and guess who's playing where because it's nearly different every time. But I guess the first two things that jumped out was Ralston retains his place again, which still beggars belief. Add to the problems at the back. Scales is back in, which saw that. I thought, well, KT's going to be pushed wide. KT's already been overworked, and then you put him in a position in this system, which is the most energy sapping in the team, which was odd, particularly when Cowan had been part of a pretty, a strongest side, and that had seemed to be working. So he'd worked for 2 games ish. So why wouldn't you just rip it up and completely replace it? That makes loads of sense against the form in the league at their place. And equally, Engels he's been up and down, but he's certainly been get more consistent than others, and he gets dropped and Bernardo rotated in. And I like Bernardo generally, but I didn't think Engels had done anything to lose his place. So, and then when the game starts, it just looks a shambles from minute one. The team don't know what they're doing. We're pinned back for minutes on end. Can't get out. As I say, the shape up front, I could watch that half another 5, 10 times, and I'm still not sure who's supposed to be playing there. Where Hatate was the furthest forward player quite a lot, so I thought, oh, maybe he's playing him as a false 9, because I'm on record as saying I think Nigrin should be playing as a false 9 because we haven't got a striker, and Nigrin at least can hold the ball up, which this system needs, and he seems to know where the goal is, so he's probably likely to be able to convert chances. But instead of that, we had Hatate floating around there some of the time, and then as deep lying as Callum McGregor at other points. And Maeda, who I believe was supposed to be leading the line, spent most of his time out by Kieran Tierney. So it was just a mess. And to be fair, as soon as I saw the lineup, literally 30 seconds before the game kicked off, I had the fear. And this was always going to be a tough game. And we made it much harder by chopping and changing the lineup when the system already doesn't work and the players don't feel and look comfortable in it, to then, chop it up and move not just the 3 changes to the lineup, but moving players around in the positions they've been playing from other games. It's just a recipe for disaster, and that's what.
Yeah, but also I think Paul, I mean, if you look at the the Motherwell team, I mean they've had Welsh playing for them, so they weren't able to play their one of their main centre halves this year.
Their main strikers at AFCON, and scored a screamer against South Africa for Zimbabwe the other day. And you're right. So Stephen Welsh taken out of the team because we're his parent club. The striker, who I'm not going to mangle his name, so I'm just going to say it, the Zimbabwean striker scored a screamer. He's out of the team. So 2 of their best players. They've got 2. We talk a lot about square pegs and round holes. They've got 2 right backs playing centre back.
Exactly, I was going to say
in O'Donnell and McGinn, who you would never have known. They were absolutely accomplished all night long. The Motherwell manager has got their team absolutely drilled in terms of before we get too much into how bad we were, it's probably worth mentioning how good Motherwell were. And I think it's quite often we come on here and teams get a draw against us and we say we've got to give them a bit of credit, and the comments go wild and say you can't give them any credit. They put 11 men behind the ball. It's anti-football. It's terrible. We shouldn't be praising that. Well, in this case, that's not what happened here. This isn't a lucky 2-0 win. They played us off the park. They were more than value for. In fact, 2-0 flattered us. It could have been any number, to be honest. And their managers got them well drilled. They were almost more impressive. They were really impressive on the ball. They were almost more impressive off the ball, like their work without it in terms of closing down press. Really, it was everything. The performance by Motherwell and their manager coach would be everything you would want to see from a Celtic team. Yeah. Like literally, if you swap the kits around, nobody would have been surprised that was what the performance was. We were as abysmal as we were. They were excellent.
Yeah. So I've just put up on the screen a comment from Mahesh. Motherwell result down to overtraining between games and lack of recovery. The squad appears to have been run too hard before the Motherwell game. I would politely disagree with that. I don't know your views on that. I mean, I think we've got the biggest squad in Scotland. We should be able to rotate even with the injuries and challenges we've had. I don't think that's a valid excuse. I mean, I think basically we were. I think the commentary I was listening to, they must have said chasing shadows about 20 times in the commentary. We were all over the shop from start to finish, and it wasn't to do with the fact that we were been training too often. I don't really buy that one at all.
I think it's probably, and nobody wants to say this, and nobody wants to accuse players of this, but I think there's a major issue in terms of effort, which you've got to lay blame in two places. Like ultimately, players' professional pride means that they should be fronting up and playing to the best of their ability and giving major effort, but equally, it sits heavily on the manager. It looks like this squad doesn't want to play for this manager. And I had fears about that after the United game. And 2 okay victories against teams that are poor have sort of papered over the cracks. And we all, as optimistic Celtic fans, and I consider myself to be one of those mostly, I get accused probably of being too optimistic, particularly by our glorious leader, Gav, as a bit of a happy clapper at times. I'd rather be a glass half full kind of guy. So you go, well, there's tiny green shoots of recovery. Maybe there's, you see a little bit of flink up play in the forward areas, and you think, oh, maybe this can get somewhere. But I think it's abundantly clear that we are now worse than the sum of our parts, and the parts aren't great, right? So we've got one of probably the weakest Celtic squad we've had in a decade, probably longer, and that's through board mismanagement, downsizing, not replacing talent, all the stuff we know about, we've spoken about for over a year. But ultimately, the same group of players were getting, okay, it wasn't brilliant, but they were getting better results under Brendan Rodgers, who was pretty much checking out himself, and we were still winning games, albeit like last time we played Motherwell, we scraped a 3-2 win at home, but we got the job done. Then Martin O'Neill comes in and manages to get look. It wasn't scintillating, but it's functional, and 7 wins out of 8 shows that this group of players should be capable of at least
first away win in Europe for years.
We should be at least capable of competing, and look at there was last gasp goals against St Mirren, and we scraped ourselves to wins in other games, and it didn't look great a lot of time. But there was clearly harmony in the squad and a desire to win and play for the manager and the jersey, and it doesn't look like that's the case now. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say some players have chucked it, but I don't think we're too far from that. There's been multiple rumours since he arrived of dressing room disharmony. There's rumours again circulating to varying degrees of a halftime bust up, which, it wouldn't take a lot for that to be particularly plausible, particularly given the subs that happened. He's cut in a pretty disconsolate figure already. I'm not sure how that gets that group of players who are already fragile and not resilient enough at the best of times. I just don't see how it positively moves forward from here. Yeah. But I think from a playing point of view, these guys are on a lot of money. And to get, I don't really mind if we are played off the park by a much better side or a much better coach side. If on a lower budget, it's pretty embarrassing. But if we just don't even get fit for the fight and roll the sleeves up and you know, they always say you've got to fight, you got to win the fight first, and then you win the battle to play football beyond that. We were second to everything all night. As I said, players didn't look up for it. We had players pulling out of challenges, pulling up on runs, chasing balls down to corner flags and just letting them run out of play. Yeah, we're in a pretty bad state.
Yeah. So listen, I've got a few stills of the game. The first, I think the first thing that we actually did, I think we had the first attempt on goal, sort of a bit of a looked header, but it came to nothing. I didn't manage to get a clip of Ralston's spectacularly bad pass, even by his standards, in the first 5 or 6 minutes. And I think that really set the tone. The guy's just devoid of confidence, and I think you said yourself, Paul. I mean, I think the fact that he was willing to drop Kenny, then you would have thought that Ralston, what has Ralston done to deserve his place in the team? It's doing him no good at all. I mean, we're all our worst critics. We know when we've had a good day at the office. We know when things have been sort of dialed in, etc. And I think the point you made about a lot of the players that seem to be just dialing in the performances just now, the fact that McGregor, Tierney, none of our big players are involved in the post-match interviews. When Kalmack spoke last weekend, he just talked about the team. He didn't make any reference to the manager. So I think that I don't think the players are playing for him, probably because they don't understand. And I think I'll show a still later on that you put in the chat, Paul, where the average position of the team the other night, which was absolutely diabolical. So if we look at so they score in the 14th minute. So this is the lead up. For me, you can just about see Schmeichel's toes on the edge of the 6-yard line. So they're about to make a cross. Ralston at least is on the right side of his. Is that Trusty? On the right side of his player. If we look here, I think we've got McGregor pointing to no one in particular. I thought he had a shocking game the other night. Whereas if you look at the two of the Motherwell forwards, they're ready to attack. I don't know what's your tactical review of this bit, Paul?
Which is it's a shambles, and Nancy in his post-match interviews made a lot of noise about we've given a goal from a throw in. Now the throw-in's a routine throw-in. Like the ball's tried to be played in behind Scales, and Scales blocked it and it's gone for a throw. Now the throw-in taker is just out a shot to the right-hand side, and he's thrown it to Stephen O'Donnell just before he's just sort of getting to the point. He maybe taking one touch to get it out of his feet. My main issue here is, and this was a problem all night, you've got two players, and I wouldn't be surprised there might be one just out of shot as well. I'm sure there was about 3 players that could have pressed O'Donnell here. Hatati's probably your main man. Or even, I think that might be Dyson. Those two, either or both, should be pressing. And Bernardo's, I think, coming up behind the player, the Motherwell player, just immediately in front of the ball. So our press was terrible all night long. It was either non-existent for majority of times, or when it did happen, it was sometimes it was one, sometimes it was twos. It was never in packs. It was never coordinated, and Motherwell played through us really simply. But yeah, Stephen O'Donnell, look, this is a great ball in, but you're right. Kasper Schmeichel's just outside his 6-yard box as he's shaping to bend the cross in. And by the time the ball hits the back of the net, he's back on his goal line. So he's absolutely regressed. And if by the time By the time Syed heads it in, he's on the 6-yard line when he makes contact. Perfect shot. So as usual, when me and Anthony review this stuff, when we lose goals, there's usually a multitude of blame to go around, and once again, it's the case. So firstly, we don't press the ball and allow time and space to hit a great cross in. The cross is great, the header's good, but Schmeichel should have retained his position where he was, and if he does, he's out and he's claiming that, and it's away. Trusty and Ralston. There's 2 of them to mark one player, and they both decide to make it the other one's responsibility. So neither of them cover themselves in glory. And your man's Syed's just drifted in between them, and he gets a good contact on it. And it's a good goal if you're a Motherwell fan or player. But it's just too cheap. And yeah, Schmeichel heavily at fault, but so are the boys pressing, because really, once that throw in gets thrown back in that direction, you should have 1 or 2 players pressing him and making it really hard for him to get this kind of delivery in the box, and ideally checking him back to make a simple pass somewhere else. So yeah, plenty of blame to go around, but yeah, a pretty poor goal by our standards to lose.
Yeah, no, 100%, Paul. If you look at if you look at the the screen there, like Ralston is nowhere. Just I don't know what he was trying to do. But even if by some miracle, when Schmeichel's sort of retreated back to his goal line, if he'd managed to make the save, you can see it's the Motherwell player that's running in on goal with about 2 yards on the guy that was supposedly marking him, again on the wrong side of the the attacker. I mean, it was schoolboy stuff.
Yeah, terrible.
and it was a great cross. But I mean, if you look at the striker is about a foot shorter than Trusty. It was a terrible goal to lose, and it could have been avoided. 100%. I mean, it's like you've got nobody's attacking, trying to sort of mark stop the cross coming in the first place, but. I mean, no one's shown any effort to bust a gut to get the right side of their defenders. It was pretty poor stuff. So we're 14 minutes in. We're a goal down. At any point, did you think that we were going to see some fight? Did we see for the next 5 minutes that we were all over them? I didn't.
No,
it was terrible.
The tone was set in the first minute. David, like literally, they came out of the blocks flying. They pressed as a unit. They pinned us back. Anytime we got the ball, the passing lanes were shut down. The press was high. Players were man marked. We resorted to lumping long balls into corners and hoping they might stick, or a runner might get on the end of it. We looked like we could give something away at the back all night in terms of risky passing between goalkeeper and midfielders, or goalkeeper and defenders. So we got off with a few, but really the players look like they're going through the motions. There's a lot of what you've noticed a lot in the last few games under Nancy is anytime something bad happens, and it's usually a goal against us, but there's other passages to play where things break down. You've got players turning around, looking at each other with like shrugging his shoulders or arms thrown up. Kasper Schmeichel's constantly moaning about stuff. And it's clear that they're not happy with what they're being asked to do. Either they don't believe in it, or they don't understand it, or a mixture of both. And yeah, clearly players are being asked to play in positions that are far from their comfort zone. Which I think, as we've sort of chatted about before, and in our group chats, is that's fine if it's 4, 5, 6 weeks out from the start of a season in pre-season and you're playing a third division team from Portugal. You can do whatever you want. You can play, your goalkeeper up front if you fancy it, just to trial it. But we're in a live title fight now, which is, getting harder by the week. It's not a time for experiments every game, especially not when you're going to an away match where our away form's been poor all year, all calendar year, and against the form team in the league.
Yep.
I think we'll get on to the manager in a bit. Okay, let's just finish the game and then we can talk about the manager, because we're going to run out of time because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, so just quickly running through some of the. This was a shot and goal by the Just. the New Zealand midfielder. I thought he had a cracking game. I thought
He
him
did.
and Watt were excellent. I mean, this came about just before this. The ball had come out, and Tierney kind of panicked and just hoofed the ball out. Again, quick throw in, and look at the number of players we've got. Yet, the ball goes inches wide. Terrible. But I want to just quickly move on to we get to half time where we're a goal down. We're not at the races. For the last few games under Nancy, our second half's been significantly worse. So what does he do? He takes off Maida, takes off Tierney, takes off Bernardo. Now, I mean, Engels, I think, deserved to certainly come on. But whether or not he's keeping Tierney for later on, whether there was an argument at half time. This is the second time that Tierney's been subbed directly at the start of the second half. But whether Maeda's playing well or not, he's our only real attacking option up front. And when you compare him to Yamada, I mean, I'll show you the clip of Yamada's chance later on, but it was embarrassing. What was your views on the subs, Paul?
Well, we definitely needed some change at half time, but the players that some of the players that got the hook, and some of the players that retained their place in the team was a bit odd, and then even positionally, once players came on, it was a bit bizarre. So Rio Hatate had one of the worst first halves I've seen in a long time. Probably as bad as he was against the other lot on the New Year's game last season. A shocking performance. Like I said, didn't look to know where he was, lacked fight, gave the ball away constantly. So he'd have absolutely been one of the first hooked for me. Engels needed to come in. Like I said, I don't understand why he was dropped, so it's fine. Tierney, from what I now gather, was always a plan just to play him for 45 minutes because of the amount of football he's been playing, and obviously a big game coming up. But if that was the game plan, I'd find it odd that you play him, like I said, play him in the position where he's going to be sapping his energy the most. When him and Trusty have looked vaguely solid on that side of a back three. The problems have mostly been down Ralston's side. So that was an odd decision. But I guess if he's only going to get 45, you're going to have to change him anyway. Maybe Scales has looked terrible coming on, like off the bench. Yeah. So maybe you think steady it from there. But it's just an odd decision. And Maeda looked like he was well out of sorts, but his even just his counter press and his energy, I would always have him still on the pitch. He'd be well down my list of players that would get the hook on a normal day. So that was an odd one for me as well. If you believe the rumours, there was an altercation between Tierney and the manager, and Maeda got involved. I don't know if that's just made up, but it's plausible given they both never came back out, albeit that it sounds like KT was planning to be out. As I say, complete rumors, but we're hearing them from multiple sources. So who knows? But the oddest thing about all of this was when the subs were made, Yang had been playing on the right in the right wing back role, where he's been playing since Nancy arrived in the system, and he's been, it's a low bar, but he's been getting better each week that he's played there. Like his effort can't be faulted. His working back's been getting better. He's been making a fist of it on that wide right position. So when McCowan comes on, you go, well, McCowan will sort of slot in for where Tierney's come off, because that's where he's been playing of recent weeks, and Yang would just carry on. No, the manager decides we'll swap them. So McCowan's gone out and asked to be playing right wing back when he's a left-sided player. Mm-hmm. Right wing back, like it's bad enough playing him left wing back, but then to play him right wing back is even more stupid. And then you switch Yang over to the left wing back position where he hasn't played since this all started. Like he's a left winger, yeah, but he's not being asked to play left wing. So just odd decision making, making from the initial selections, odd decision making at subs, and then odd positional choices as well. Like I don't really understand what he's trying to do. And I'm trying to give him the benefit, or I have been trying to give him the benefit of doubt, but it's clearly not working. So yeah, he's sort of making, he's got problems enough, and he's making more for himself.
Yeah. No, I think with McCowan, I think if there had been any lip readers watching the game, I think he was, he was sort of raging about, that the manager just didn't have a clue what he was doing. But let's start of the second half. We've started a little bit better. Here we've got a through ball from Negrin, I think it was. And if you look at this, the ball's coming at a decent pace. Yamada has to, it's in his stride. Surely he's going to make the goalkeeper work at the very least. Do you recall this one, Paul?
Yeah, I do. It was probably our clearest chance in the whole game, and it's just shocking. Like, it's just so bad. And look, I've been calling for Kenny to be taken out of the firing line. It's odd that we've had Yamada on benches and not even giving him 5, 10, 15 minutes here and there. Like, Kenny's been so bad that you think, well, it wouldn't do any harm just to give somebody else a crack. But you can sort of see why when you see this. Now, the kid has hardly played. Well, not a kid, he's 25, but he's hardly played any much football. So he's obviously going to be ring rusty. But you have got to, as you say, you've got to at least test the keeper. We've really got to score with this. Where we're at in the match at this point, he's got to score. And if he scores here, we're 1-1. And even for how badly we've played, they then start to maybe have a few doubts and maybe regress a bit, and you maybe nick something. It's just a really poor finish. Really poor. He snatches at it, he chokes it down, and it dribbles back to the keeper. It's really poor.
It hardly even had the power to get back to the goalkeeper. It was shocking. Listen, on the chat, nice to see Christophe. Ça fait longtemps, mon ami. Je te souhaite bonne année. Meilleurs vœux pour 2026. So I hope, Christophe, I hope you're doing well. Happy New Year again to all our guests today. Not perhaps the ones that are of the the sort of the blue and white tinge who are in some of the comments, but so quickly we gone to the 58th minute. We've got again Schmeichel passing out. On the face of it, it doesn't look too horrific, but what you can't see here is how hard he's actually hit the ball. You can't see that he's hit it about 2 yards behind Engels, who's trying to adjust on the surface and slips. It was just absolutely kamikaze. And I know there's going to be a lot of people saying it was Engels' fault, but I mean, for me, this was a horror show by Schmeichel, and the blame 90% is all on him.
Yeah, look, there's again multiple blame here. Scales passes him the ball back, so I think he gives it to Scales, and this guy who's now getting quite close to the ball on the 6-yard line, he's trying to close down Scales initially, so he's done good work. It might be Syed again, actually. He's done he's made a really good press on Scales. Scales has panicked and just given it straight back to the keeper. And at this point, obviously, the directive is to not lump it long, right? But if you look at this, nobody's set for a pass there. McGregor's closed down and got his back to the rest of play. And we talk a lot about players with their backs to the play. They don't know what's behind them. They're not half open. They're not on the half turn. They can't receive a pass like that in a dangerous area near your own goal. So he's out. Passing lines to Scales are blocked. So Casper's got 3 options. He can either take a touch, go right, and try and find somebody down the right wing, which is probably, his best option in the circumstances. He could just put his laces through it and belt it up the park and reset. Okay, we'll give possession away, but there's no danger of losing a goal from that. You just reset. It's probably best option 2. And then option 3 is to try this super risky pass to Engels, who isn't set for a pass, he isn't asking for it. He isn't looking for it. Now, you could put some blame on Engels for that. Like, he should maybe anticipate that he might be the only out ball. But I'm still not putting a lot of blame on him. He's not looking for that pass. He knows he's got a marker behind him. He's not set. He's got his back to the rest of the play. And even if he is your man, like, you've got to pass it to him. It's 2 yards past him, and it's also his body shape and weight is on his other side. So and what happens is he tries to get back over, and because he's imbalanced, he slips and falls over. So Schmeichel, to me, for me, is the major point of blame for both goals, and he's now becoming a liability. And I get he's probably a leader in the dressing room, but he seems to constantly be moaning. He's negative. And I think I'm not convinced Sinisalo is the long-term solution, but at this point, I think he's probably a better option than Schmeichel for his mobility alone.
For sure. So then, of course, it comes to the a tap in for the Motherwell. Again, it's 2 Motherwell players closest to the ball. And I posted one of the comments just a couple of seconds ago there from one of the guys saying that Motherwell's pressing was 10 times better than ours. They were hungry. They were pressing in packs. It wasn't disjointed and half-arsed like basically ours was. It was shocking state of affairs. So let's just go through again here. We've got leading on to another chance for Motherwell. This was in the 71st minute. So what's happened here is Forrest has I don't know who he was trying to pass the ball to, but he has absolutely bluttered the ball. I think that's Kalmak, who's standing like some ridiculous statue. Clearly didn't expect the ball. He clearly didn't expect the ball to be coming to him.
He doesn't think that's him. What he's doing there, he's making his body small so the ball can get past him, and rightly so as far as he's concerned, there's no way that pass can be for him. So he's assuming, because he's got back to the rest of the play, he's assuming that that's aimed at somebody who's in behind him. So he makes his body small so it can get past him. But you're right, I don't know what James is doing. Yeah, and the Motherwell player cuts it out and they break, and we potentially.
So the ball goes down, and again, this kind of reminded me of the Brazil 1970 World Cup goal, where that the guy's sort of battering down the right-hand side and the ball's going to come to him. Again, you've got players that are just all over the shop. Shocking defending.
Well, this is a good still for another one of the problems under Nancy in the system, and particularly on in the game the other night, is look how close those 4 players are, the Celtic defenders are to each other. There's 4 of them in a tiny square. And there's one Motherwell player there. So the players don't know where they're supposed to be. And we'll show the average position map in a minute, but I just think because players don't know where they're supposed to be or how they're supposed to utilize their position in the team and the space on the pitch, they're trying to do one thing, but also kind of revert into type in terms of what they've been programmed in position, and expected to do for the last 2, 3, 4 years, and sort of pulling back into old positions. And it just becomes a mess. And that's why there's so much space for teams to carve us open. And you can see here, we've literally got no width in that defensive position.
Yeah, it was shocking. Absolutely shocking. So the last clip, thank the Lord, says everyone, of the horror show was this was Nygren's attempt on I think it was about the 81st minute. He's hit it well. The goalkeeper has made the first save that he had to make for pretty much the entire game. But yeah, I wouldn't want to sort of dwell on that as being in any way positive. It was it was shocking stuff. But
this is at 80 minutes, and I barely a flicker for me when this happened. Callum Ward's a good keeper. He's had, I think he had a few bits of issue with form earlier in the season, but he's really come onto a game. He had a few good saves against the other lot at Ibrox the other day. A bit unlucky to be on the losing side, Motherwell that night. And this is the only time we've tested him, as you say, all night. And it's a good, solid save, but it's pretty routine. Nygren does well, but again, it's for this to be the highlight of the whole day's attacking play is pretty pitiful. And even if it had gone in, I wouldn't have backed us to get an equaliser. When the second goal went in, I pretty much went, it was 58, 59 minutes. I went, we're done. We've been awful all night, and we will not come back from this. And yeah, that's how it panned out. So yeah, this is David, you're on mute. This is the average position map that we were sort of talking about earlier. And this shows you this kind of state of the problem we've got at the minute. It also shows you that not everything you see that looks right is actually functional. Like, at least the back three are taking up the right average positions for the majority of the game. But if we think Maeda was leading the line, which we believe he was supposed to be doing, he's basically sitting on top of scales all night, occupying that space. And our four midfielders, who we hear a lot about, are supposed to be, a box, if you like. In fact, it's not even our four midfielders, because I think one of them is Yang. So Yang, who is supposed to be our right wing back, is one of the two covers numbers under 28 or 42. Now, my guess would be as a right wing back, he's probably going to be in the middle of the pitch, but he could just as easily be under 28. So you got your right wing back spending the majority of his time bang in the middle of the pitch. Ridiculous. And then Nygren is your other sort of part of your square, if you like. And 3 out of the 4 of them are all on top of each other. So this just shows you the problems, we've got. This must just be the first half, actually, because some of those players got hooked. But it just shows how far off a functional, organised formation we are when this is the average position players are taken up. To be fair to KT, he's roughly where he should be, and the back three are roughly where they should be. But from there, midfield and up front, we're a mess. And you can see that fits with the eye test. We are a mess, and particularly in this game. Like I say, the front three, I had no idea who was supposed to be doing what for the whole of that first half. It was really poor, and the manager could see Motherwell dominating the game and made no tweaks, no tactical changes throughout the game, and then just threw on 3 subs, some of whom were playing further out of position than they were already being asked to play. And it just, we had a rally for a few minutes at the beginning of the half, but it really just reverted to type. And when we did get more time in their final third, it was because they had 2-goal lead and they were happy to sit in and protect it, which they're entitled to do. So it wasn't through any kind of forward press or focus by us that we ended up spending more time in their half. It was purely because they decided to retain the lead and see it out, which they did well.
Yeah. Hail Eddie. Your Celtic tops in the bag already for Saturday. I promise I won't forget it. But yeah, absolutely terrible stuff. The other thing is just to sort of to flog that dead horse. That some of the yellow cards we got, it was just petulant rubbish, really. I think 3 of the players, or 2 or 3 of the players, getting booked for tugging jerseys. It looked to about 10 minutes to go that Trusty had thought, yeah, I just want to. It was almost as if he was going for a red card, trying to get a second yellow. But yeah, it was just completely disjointed. So where does that leave us? We've got a manager who's clearly not fit for purpose. Who is the players aren't supporting him. And you compare that to what I've just put on the screen here. Martin O'Neill had the same players. I think the screenshot just shows the domestic goals that Celtic conceded under Martin O'Neill. But if you look at this, what Nancy is doing with this squad is absolutely appalling. I saw another one where they were comparing them to John Barnes, but John Barnes was the Celtic manager for 8 months. And for the first 3 months when he was in the job, we were hammering teams. I think he took a particular dislike to Aberdeen. I think we took about 5 or 6 or 7 off them in 3 games before Christmas, and then obviously lost Larson. But that was 8 games that he lost in 8 months. This idiot has lost 5 games in 3 weeks. Is there any hope, Paul? Can we see any glimmering hope at all that we can turn the corner?
So look, as I said earlier, I'm usually somebody who's positive, pragmatic, willing to give people time, and the thought of sacking a manager after 7 games seems ludicrous. I had a pop at Forest for doing this, pretty much the same with our former esteemed leader, Ange Postecoglou. But it's at the very least, it's ruthless, right? At some point, you've got to go, either this is going to work or it isn't. I think, was it Leverkusen that sacked Ten Hag after like 2 or 3 games? Like, they clearly saw it wasn't going to work. And they pulled the pin. Now, I think we'd have been within our rights to get rid of him after four defeats in the spin, including the cup final, and especially how sort of meek we were in the second half against Dundee United and the whole game against St Mirren. But you sort of give him benefit of doubt. You give him benefit of doubt. Apparently, he got the rumor was 2 games to save his job. He wins those 2 games. And so you basically go, well, on the one hand, you go, they're 2 poor teams, right? Aberdeen have been poor. They're just back from Prague. They've got a 3-day turnaround. They got a man sent off, and we scraped it in the last couple of minutes. And I'll be honest, I was surprised we had the resilience to come back, because when they equalised, I thought we were not scoring again here, but we did. But it papered over the cracks. And Livy, bottom of the league, Livy, absolutely, miles off the pace, scored 2 quick goals against us. We get a dubious penalty. And even at 4-2, I think most Celtic fans were probably thinking we needed an hour to make this comfortable. And that's the bottom of the league side. But as a Celtic fan, you want to believe that, things are progressing, even however slowly or however small those shoots are. And you think, well, there's enough in the attacking sense that we can outscore teams until we can get some reinforcements in. Last night for me is really, really damaging to the manager. Like I say, he's taken a group of players and who aren't a great group of players, but he's made them look worse since he came in the door. But more than what you see on the pitch is what comes out of his mouth after matches. I'm really concerned that he thinks we're making progress, because
for sure,
his post match, like I there was about 3 post match interviews. One on Premier Sports was rant about 7 minutes long. One on BBC, and then one the Celtic TV channel. I've watched them all, and it probably amounts to 15 minutes of footage, and he says nothing really of any note. Doesn't seem to take any blame for how he sets up and for what's happening. Like I said earlier, way too much focus on losing a goal from a throw-in. The throw-in's inconsequential. It's how we deal with the ball back and play afterwards. So that's a red herring that he's throwing around the place, which is worrying. But the most damning thing is he said he saw things that were good, and he specifically mentioned our pressing, which was absolutely abysmal. all night. And there was something else he mentioned, like maybe our pressing and our defending. And so two of the things that he actually held up as things that he saw progress with, for me, they were non-existent. So there's too much weight adding up to me to go, I don't see how he turns it round. Like, it clearly looks like the dressing room aren't behind him. They're not playing for him. Players are unhappy and confused and out of position. And teams have already worked us out. I will hardly get time for a Rangers preview because we're 10 minutes from the end of the show, but we'll touch on that briefly. But I for the first time since they died, I actually expect us to lose a derby. Now, obviously, we've lost derbies against them, but I've never gone in. I'm pretty confident when we play them and have been for years. When we go into games against them, I expect us to win. Even if we're out of form, I expect us to win because we've got better players, better squad, etc. I absolutely expect us to lose on Saturday. If we somehow win, great, but it's all it does is delay the inevitable. For me, I can't see how this turns around. I could, if somehow the players get up for it because it's a derby and they, we get a bit of luck of the day, we win the match. I could see us losing either one of the next two games or both, and then we're back where we started, or even worse. So time is running out to salvage the season. And I think you've got to be ruthless and make a decision. But he won't get the sack because our board are absolutely hopeless. They waited way too long on Neil Lennon. Every fan in the COVID season knew that it was done. It was done before Christmas. It was done after Ferencváros. That was when it was done. That was probably October, November. And every fan knew that. Anyone with eyes could see it was done, and he needed put out of his misery. Yeah, he's a club legend, but at some point, if you're a club legend that comes back and manages, you're eventually gonna run out of time. Either you're gonna retire or you're gonna get asked to go. So that's what should have happened with Neil Lennon. We didn't pull the pin. We let it limp on, and we ruined our whole season. If we do the same here and give Nancy more time, and God forbid money in the window, you can't replace a whole squad, and he needs way too many replacements to implement.
I want to just touch on that as well before we sort of. I also think I can't see us winning on Saturday, but the transfer window opened today. I see Hearts have already bought their second player. I think it's called planning. And we're still pissing about potentially getting someone on loan from Preston. I heard we're trying to get some guy on loan from Bournemouth, but they've already got their maximum quota of people that are out on loan. So even then, we're not able to get that over the line. It's just absolute Mickey Mouse nonsense. But we've got £70 million in the bank. Should we be standing behind the manager? Let's embrace his team and bring in people that are going to fit that system. I wouldn't waste the money.
What I would do, if you like, for me, he'd have been gone the morning after the Motherwell game. But clearly, as I said, that's not going to happen. So if he's still going to be in situ, he needs players, undoubtedly. But as I say, I think it's inevitable that he eventually gets the bullet, whether it's soon or later or the end of the season. So do you want to take 20, 30 million and give him that for his very specific way of playing when the next manager is almost certainly not going to play the same way? And that's another, there's a bigger story here about we've got a relatively poor squad because we've been underfunded that have played 4-3-3 for 6, 7, 8, 10 years, whatever it's been. And we know that's what those players are used to playing. So we go and hire a manager who must have told us in an interview that he's going to rip that up and play in a different... It's absolutely insane. But that's how dysfunctional the Celtic board is. It's nonsense. So it's a World Cup year. So I'm not a big fan of loans. But in the predicament we find ourselves in, where a manager clearly isn't fancied by the majority of the fan base, the majority of the dressing room, and surely behind closed doors, a good number of the board must be having reservations now, including Desmond. So you need players in a World Cup year. There must be tons of players across the world that want a place in a World Cup squad, but they're not getting minutes where they are. So for once, I would be quite happy taking 4 or 5 loans in to plug key gaps in the team with no plan to retain them beyond the loan to the end of the season. The only type of player that I would permanently sign if I could get one, and I don't think you can, it's not going to be easy, is a striker, because we're always going to need a striker. There isn't a fit striker at the club, and even if Iniancio comes back from injury, he could break down again. So if you could lay your hands on a half decent striker, I'd pay the money for that. Exactly, as Rubber Duck says, a good striker fits in any team. So I'd go and buy one of them if I could. Easier said than done, but I wouldn't be splashing cash across the squad beyond that. As I say, a World Cup year, you get loans, you should be able to get players in. We should have we should have had a striker in the door today, before today or tomorrow, before the game on Saturday,
for sure.
And people will say that this is a knee jerk and you shouldn't go back for players and all that. It's a World Cup year. I take Kyogo back in a heartbeat. I said it on the Tactical Review show. He's not the player he was when he left 12 months ago, and his confidence is down. His match fitness won't be there because he's not played as many games. But he understands what's expected at the club, and he knows where the goal is. So I would have had him in the door yesterday, and I'd have had him starting against Rangers on Saturday. But that's probably not going to happen either, because as we all know with this board, we'll faff about, we'll penny pinch, and we'll get players in the last week or two of the window, and it'll be a shambles. Now,
I'm sorry, Paul. I've just put it up on the, and Neil's asking, can anyone pick the starting 11 for Saturday? Who would you?
You make it a raffle. Like, do you know what?
Who would you like to? I mean, assuming that he's going to stick with his 3-4-3. I mean, for me, Engels has to start.
He has to start. But David, I am so apathetic, and this is terrible to say, like this. I'm so apathetic. I couldn't care less who he picks on Saturday. He could pick 5 or 6 out of the crowd, and they'd have as much clue as the players that are going to be asked to do what they're going to be asked to do. So I don't know. I feel like we could be not far away. My brother, who's a professional coach, said to me, I don't know why Kalmak and the players aren't just doing their own thing. Like, it would be better, like, if they just defy the manager's expectations and just go, we'll do this. It would be better. He's taking a group of players and he's going backwards. If you want me to answer the question seriously, I'd play. And this is the problem. He hasn't played players that need played, so you're going to have to persist. I tell you what, I play Donovan. I play Sinisalo. I play Donovan, Trusty, Tierney. I play Engels, McGregor. I play Yang right, McCowan left. And
for me, it has to. For me,
he has, because he's got, like, he's as bad as he was the other night. Yeah. He's got something so Hatate, Nigrin, and Maeda. You're probably going to ask Maeda to lead the line. But the danger with that is he going to drift left. So that's why I've been calling for Nigrin to play as a false 9. And that way you can get Hatate in the team. Maeda can play off the left. And Nigrin can hold the ball up. He can bring others into play and he can finish. So I don't think he'll do it, but I'd play Nigrin as a false 9. I'd play Maeda on the left behind him, and I'd play Ria Hatate on the right behind him, and the rest of the team as we had been doing for a couple of games. But I'd say you could have 10 picks at it and you probably wouldn't get it right.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see the team that you've suggested. I cannot possibly see Schmeichel getting dropped for this, sadly. I don't think Nancy's got the balls to drop him. I think we should have been seeing the lesser spotted Puzy.
We should have seen him. We should have seen him now. He's played, and I said this before on the show. He's played Champions League football for Manchester City, and he's a right centre back. So if a right centre back that's played Champions League football for Manchester City can't displace an out of position Tony Ralston, we're in real trouble. We really are. Yeah. We're in worse trouble than we think we are.
Yeah. So so I think the vast majority of the comments agree that apart from Mahesh, who always supports the manager, fair play to you. But yeah, for me, I'm not seeing anything that suggests that Nancy has got any way a long-term future, with us. Would you? I mean, I think it's an easy question, but I mean, if Martin O'Neill was available, it would be a short-term fix. I think he's 73. I mean, you could at least see him till the end of the season. He had players playing for him. He had whether it was maybe scraping by some of the games, but we had a formation that people understood. We had a team that was building confidence. We got the away game in Europe. And it's just the level of the drop off since Martin O'Neill left has just been catastrophic. So let's see if we can.
I don't think he'd come back. Do you know what? I don't think he'd come back. If we'd asked him to stay till the end of the season from interim, I think he would have. Now that he's gone and been asked to fill it, I don't think we do it. But if we binned him, and we should bin him, then the fans would accept Maloney back in with Fotheringham and whoever else, McManus, because ultimately they were driving the training and the tactics and the formation majority anyway. O'Neill's a figurehead. He's a motivator, and he'd give those players belief. But yeah, it's only a few weeks. You only have to go back a few weeks ago when it was rumored that Rodgers was going to go. That anyone in the support, including most of us on here, would have had a fit if the choice to replace him was Maloney, yet more downsizing. But we're so bad. We're so bad, in such a bad state that we would all accept that with glee. So that's, is it a psyop? You know what I mean? Like, I think I heard my mate Sean Connolly say, is it a psyop on Axum that, by stealth, we're gonna get Maloney and we'll all be grateful for it. Yep. So the downsizing will be complete. But yeah, I would take Maloney at the minute because he understands what it's about. The players obviously know him and we're playing for him and his coaches. And it would give us an opportunity to look around and properly select a manager and a head of football operations, because Tisdale, we haven't mentioned him once, but he should be out in his ear as well. He's been given the keys to the kingdom, and he's responsible for this hire, another old mates act. So yeah, he needs to go in. Nancy can follow him. Yeah. So Brown Warriors also suggesting Puzzi, deserving a start. I mean, my problem with that is that we needed to give him a chance under the new manager. Before Saturday. You can't throw him in like cold now. It's nonsense. In an ideal world, he would have been playing his way into match fitness and form ahead of this game. I'd love to see him get some time. There's obviously something going on there that consecutive managers haven't fancied him. Bizarrely, he played once at right back under Rodgers, and he was excellent. He had a really good debut, and we've not seen him a minute on the pitch since. So yeah, as much as I would hope that he could have filled a bit of a gap there. Realistically, I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. Well, listen, I think we can pretty much leave it there. Happy New Year again to everyone. Thanks for all the comments in the chat. Massive thanks to you, Paul. For looking after me. Fortunately, normal service will be resumed on Monday, I think, when Gav is back. You'll be on Monday evening with the tactical review. Yeah, myself and Anthony will be back for that, which I'm not really looking forward to currently, but you never know. We could see a miracle. Who knows? Yeah. So listen. Fingers crossed that we're celebrating and talking about a tremendous victory. Let's see whether that happens or not. But Happy New Year, folks, and all the very best. Hail, hail. Hail, hail.